Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Brett Keane from God TV Radio. Make sure you check out my website, godtvradio.com. I am here with Chris, aka FakeSagan, aka you want to finish all the nicknames you've got?
Let's see. Hard Case Owns You, The Smooth Terrorist, The Fluffy Kittenist, The Vanilla Thriller. What else? The most attractive and handsome and talented guy who was formerly on YouTube. That's all the ones I can think of.
There you go. That'll do. What about the Illa Thriller or something like that you said whenever you called me last?
Vanilla Thriller. Vanilla Thriller.
There you go.
Yeah, that's an old school one. 2008, circa 2007-8. Yep.
All right. My first question is kind of a personal nature. When did you first become a non-believer, and what do you think had inspired you then? Of course, you're a believer now, but what sparked it off as a non-believer?
Okay, well, I didn't start calling myself an atheist until I was about 15 years old, and I started reading Nietzsche. But I knew something was wrong, or I knew something was different about me, however you want to put it, ever since I was a very young kid. We're talking about 6, 7 years old, because I was raised in a Catholic household, and I was instructed to always pray before bed. You know, my folks told me when you get in bed at night, you know, say your prayers and just talk to God. And I would do that, and I just always kind of felt like, this is stupid. Who am I? I'm talking to myself. There is nobody listening to me. This is like having an imaginary friend. What's going on here? So that's kind of the story of that.
All right. What inspired you to come to YouTube and be a part of social media in the first place?
They hooked me in with a free DVD. They hooked me in with a free DVD. I just got done driving, so I'm mentally distracted. If you'll recall, there was this thing called the Rational Response Squad way back in the day with a guy named Brian Sapien. And he created this, what turned out to be a pretty shitty documentary called The God Who Wasn't There. And he did this thing called the Blasphemy Challenge, where if you get up on YouTube and you blaspheme God and the Holy Spirit, you get a free DVD. And that's when I joined YouTube. I was like, well, hell, I want a free DVD. And when I got the free DVD, I watched it, and it sucked. It was stupid. The documentary wasn't even worth my time. But I was like, you know, I kind of like this YouTube thing. I'm gonna keep doing this. And that's the story.
All right. Now, one of the things you've pointed out in video publicly, as well as we've talked about, you stated that you have trust issues. Did that start during YouTube or before?
Wow, that's a tough question. I mean, I guess it started before. I'm sure we all have trust issues. Yeah, and I could get into a bunch of personal stuff, but it would take up the whole interview. But my trust issues when it comes to YouTube and the internet mostly have to do with, you know, people stalking me, giving me death threats, trying to find out where I live, trying to find out where I work, trying to find out who my family is. There's a lot of unbalanced people on the internet, Brett. I don't have to tell you that.
Yeah. When would you say the death threat started?
Well, they started almost right away when I began making YouTube videos, but they got into full swing after I made that video entitled "Fuck Islam." Yeah, that really after that I got in fact, I made a video showing all the death threats that I got. I think it was called "Religion of Peace" or something like that.
Have you, whenever you returned as a believer, did you have any problems with Muslims?
No, I think the Muslims kind of forgot about me. You know, I actually found out at one point that they put my face on the cover of a Turkish newspaper for a cover story article about Islamophobia in the West. And you know, I found that out, and I was like, well, shit. I guess I can never go to Turkey now. You know, I can never visit Hagia Sophia. But you know, I think the Muslims kind of moved on to bigger and better infidels.
How do you feel nowadays, even though you returned for a short while, how did you feel about this whole SJW feminism thing? Is it blown out of proportion, or is there real valid points about it?
Well, define what you mean by SJW feminism thing.
Well,
What exactly do you mean?
for me, I notice that a lot of people are arguing. They feel like feminists, like Thunderfoot claims that feminists are poison, and SJWs are causing all this problems.
Okay, I have mixed feelings about feminism, and here's the reason why. On the one hand, I consider that feminism prescribes to treat women as perennial victims and kind of give them an excuse to act like children. Pretty much, it's like, hey, if you're having a hard time in life, if you're not succeeding in your goals, well, it's not your fault. It's because the patriarchy is keeping you down. And to me, that's not equality at all. However, if I were to look at it from an MRA standpoint, which I really don't, I do not consider myself an MRA, but if I were to look at it from that standpoint, I would be very grateful to feminism for liberating men, because now, I can be the lazy sack of shit that sits around being a homemaker and not working and supporting anyone. And they can't shame me for that as much anymore. It's not like the 50s where people would be like, look at this worthless bum not doing a damn thing. Well, these days, women are in the workforce, women are overrepresented in the university level more than men. So, the consequence of them coming over to our side of the fence is that we men get to go over to their side of the fence and just say, like, well, hey, I should be able to exist just by being beautiful and being taken care of. And, to some extent, I have done that a little bit. So in a way, I think feminism is kind of the worst thing that ever happened to women and the best thing that ever happened to men. I'll put it that way.
Here's an unusual question. Do you believe that you get along with women more than men, or both?
I get along better with women than men, and I always have, ever since I was a kid. When you're a little kid, you go outside and knock on your friends' doors. Hey, you want to come out and ride bikes? I mean, I guess kids don't do that anymore because they have cell phones now. But when I was a kid, people used to interact in real life and go out and, like, play kickball and stuff like that. And, I always wanted to play with the neighborhood girls. I didn't really have anything in common with the other boys in the neighborhood. So make of that what you will.
All right, fair enough, fair enough. Now, this next question, it's a little bit personal. You can pass on it if you like, but when you're not doing YouTube or dealing with social media or bringing down the hammer on some creeps out there, what is it that you do for fun? What's the hobbies?
What is it that I do for fun? Well, I read a lot. That's always been a big thing for me. I used to be really into visual arts. I used to draw a lot, and I'm quite good at it, but I just don't do it anymore. And my theory as to why is because I was more of an introvert and not much of a talker when I was good at that. And then when I found another way to express myself, it's like I didn't need visual arts anymore. I play guitar, as a lot of people know. I play bass. I like shooting. I have 5 guns. I like to get out and shoot. I up until very recently, the number one answer I could have given to that question is drugs. A whole lot of drugs. Lots of weed, lots of psychedelics. But I don't really do that anymore because it doesn't fit in so well with the Christian thing.
All right. I noticed a while back in some of your older videos you used to shoot off guns. Did you hear a while back whenever Obama tried to remove guns, basically shut that down, yet at the same time he was wanting to arm people in other countries who were actually against us? Do you think that that's kind of odd?
I don't think there's anything odd about it at all. No, it's, look, the example that I've used in my videos related to anarchy about government is still one that I think it's a great example today. Governments are like a horny high school boy on prom night. How far are they going to go? They're going to go as far as she lets him. And there's no ambiguity at all about what they want to do. Just like you don't have to ask what the motivation of the high school boy is. He wants to get in her pants. Well, we don't have to ask what government's motivation is either. They want to completely subjugate us. If they had their way, we'd be absolute powerless slaves just working the plantation with no rights at all. And, you know, some countries have a little bit more of that, some have a little bit less. But the bottom line is governments, to use George Washington's example, it's like a fire. It can be very beneficial. It can warm your house. It can cook your food. But you've got to keep it contained in that fireplace. You have to keep it contained. Because if you let it run wild, it's just going to burn your house down. That's how I think of government. Government is like a wild animal that has to be kept in check. You gotta tame it down once in a while, because they're just going to do what they want to do. Now, if Obama had his way, he would have had as much power as Stalin. And the only limit on his power is like the high school girl slapping your hand away, like, hey, that's far enough. That's as far as I'm going to let you go.
Do you believe that your political views and also idea on morals have changed since you became a Christian as opposed to a non-believer?
Not as much maybe as it should have. I mean, I think what's changed about me as a Christian is that I've learned more to accept a broken world. Christianity has kind of disabused me of this delusion that somehow we're going to create a utopia one day. You know, I didn't really completely believe that before. Now I have a very good reason for not believing it, because I have this convenient, the world's in a fallen state. Whereas before, I just thought, well, it's not going to work because it never has worked, and, if the sun rose yesterday and the day before, it's probably going to rise today as well. Now I actually have an explanation for why the world sucks. But I'm still an anarchist. I still don't believe this idea that there's a special class of people who know more than the rest and are entitled to rule. I mean, I'm always going to find that to be a ridiculous idea and something that it really confuses me why most of my fellow human beings think that way.
You have probably already been asked this question several times when people found out that you were a believer, but one of the common questions that non-believers like to ask is, why Christianity? Why Jesus? Why not Buddha or Ganesha or some kind of weird spider deity or something? Why this specific one?
Best answer to that question, I like Jesus. And even if I didn't believe that Jesus was the Son of God, which I do, I would still he would be the kind of guy I would want to have a beer with. Like you read about the stuff that he said during his ministry, and he's just a great guy. Even when I was an atheist, I was never one of these pants-on-head retarded people that believe the historical Jesus didn't exist. I mean, no serious historian takes that idea serious. It's like saying that Homer didn't exist. It's like saying that Julius Caesar didn't exist. And even as an atheist, I admired Jesus the man. I thought, this is a guy who speaks truth to power. Like the Sermon on the Mount, woe to ye Pharisees and scribes. That's what I've spent my life doing, is trying to speak truth to power and try to get people to stand up for themselves and do the right thing. And that is what he did during his entire 33 years in however you want to put it, human form. So I like Jesus. And as far as why not Buddhism, I've never liked the way Buddhism kind of justifies apathy. It's like, some little kid in Tibet is born blind, and everybody kind of assumes, oh, he deserves it because he must have been a real piece of shit in his last life. And this whole idea that existence is suffering and you just got to escape it by kind of shutting your brain off until you die. I feel the same way about that I feel about antinatalism. Why don't you spare the time and just kill yourself now? And spider deities, well, I'm not aware of any cults of spider deity worship, so maybe if they have a really persuasive argument, it'll win me over, but probably not. I think I'm going to stick with the Christianity thing.
Now, you were saying earlier in this interview that you have been a creative person in the past. You were good with art, and you're also doing musical instruments, or used to. Did it ever incline you that maybe you should have done instead of videos on pawnage, maybe videos where you're just simply writing songs or doing music or doing art? Those seem like those are pretty successful.
Well, I actually am a very highly skilled visual artist. I've won art competitions. I can draw a portrait of you that would look as real as a photograph. However, what really sets artists apart isn't their technical proficiency. Because it's not like drafting blueprints. What sets an artist apart is their creativity and their imagination. And when it comes to visual art, I don't have that much of that. When it comes to music, I don't have that much of that either. I've never created anything terribly original when it comes to music or visual art. And mostly those are things that I do for myself. They're hobbies that I entertain myself with. But the art at which I have always excelled is oration and rhetoric. That is the art that I'm actually a little bit head and shoulders above the common practitioner student of. So that's what I do. I mean, if I was making music videos on YouTube or making videos about my art, then you never would have heard of me because it would have been some pretty mediocre content.
If I were to give you a picture of myself or my beautiful wife, would you be willing to make a portrait? I have seen lots of people make artistic portraits of me, but they usually have poop on the face or dicks growing out of the forehead. Would you be able to do me right?
I would, but you would have to wait a very long time because even though I'm sure everyone has a hard time believing this, I'm a pretty busy guy. I don't get much time to just, the other day, Tommy from the Bronx sent me or he left a comment on my channel before I took it down, and he said, "What do I have to do to get you to return what do I have to do to get you to call me? Do I have to be a Christian?" And I said, "Tommy, between going to work, going to church, going to therapy sessions, and all this YouTube stuff, I literally haven't had time to turn around and scratch my own ass. I don't have like 5 minutes in the day dedicated to myself. So I would be more than willing to draw a beautiful portrait of you and Dawn, but you would have to wait for it. It could be a long time."
Well, that's fine with me. I'm a pretty patient guy. So, not too long ago, I had ended up making a video called Atheist Challenge, where I showed clips of Richard Dawkins, Mr. DeGrasse Tyson, as well as Bill Nye, talking about a matrix, about somehow some super entity, according to Bill Nye, created a simulation that we exist in, almost like a video game. And you seem like you got really worked up about that. You got excited a little bit about it. Why do you think that's such an interesting concept?
Well, Bill Nye, I mean, how seriously can you take a guy that wears a bow tie? But what really is interesting about this concept, I find the idea that we live inside of a matrix rather uninteresting, to be honest, because even if it's true, even if we are living in some kind of advanced computer simulation, how does that really affect how I live my life? How does that affect, my daily activities? Like, the world is what it is, whether it's a computer simulation or not. But what fascinates me about that idea and what impressed me so much about your video is the way atheists are exhibiting quasi-religious tendencies lately, and they almost seem like they want to reinvent the wheel of religion. It's like, well, I won't speak of a supreme being, but I'll speak of a super entity. And, I don't believe in heaven or hell, but I believe in a multiverse of other dimensions. It's like they're just ashamed to to explore their spirituality or speak about God, they think that's embarrassing. They think it's quaint and antiquated and anachronistic. But, you know, they're basically just trying to redefine the discourse and put the same ideas into new terms. And what really fascinates me is the possibility that they themselves might not even be aware of this, and I think they probably are not.
Yeah, I've noticed that as well. They make it sound like it's extremely ridiculous to think that there's some kind of intelligent mind that had something to do with the universe, but an intelligent mind making the universe into a program and simulating us, that sounds perfectly rational.
Right. They're really just rehashing Christian ideas, and they don't even know it. I mean, it's laughable. It's like I look at these guys talking about this stuff, and I just laugh at how unself-aware they are, at how they don't see what they're doing. But you know what? It really reminds me of it is atheists right on YouTube, and the way that they never saw, the way they were exhibiting the same kind of exclusivity, the same kind of in-group, out-group mentality, the same kind of scapegoating and shaming that they criticize religion for. And that's something I've been talking about in my videos for years. I was talking about that back when I was an atheist. I was saying, hey guys, you know, you really are just like the theists in every way, shape, and form, except for your stated unbelief in God. And I had conversations about TJ with that back when he and I were still friends. And the metaphor that he used, which I thought was a pretty good one, is that going from a theist to a atheist, or going from an atheist to a theist and back again, is like changing the label on a jar of pickled turds. You know, you're changing the outside, but inside you're still more or less the person that you always were. You're still going to behave the same way. But you know, if you watch atheist videos on YouTube, some of them anyway, I'm not calling all atheists out, but a lot of them, you know, you'll hear the altar calls, you'll hear the you know, the credos of faith. You'll see the submission to authority and dogma. You know, they've got their Pope and Richard Dawkins, and everything he says is gospel. I mean, they behave the same. In fact, they don't just behave like theists. They behave like the worst kind of theists, fundamentalists. And I think they're not aware of that.
I've noticed, at least in my own thoughts, and I'd like to get your opinion on this. I noticed before YouTube started handing out like partnerships and all this, before money was exchanged hands with YouTubers, it seemed like non-believers and religious people got along a lot better. I feel like when I'm watching a lot of these videos nowadays that people, they're doing it primarily to exaggerate and cause drama just simply for views and money, and it's not because they actually believe most of what they're talking about. Do you get that sense, or do you think I'm wrong on this?
Well, you know, I don't really recall a time when money wasn't a factor. And let me qualify that statement. Now, granted, there was a time before Google purchased YouTube, and there was a time before monetization of ad revenue was possible, and there was no YouTube partnership program. However, it was still always easy to make money off of YouTube videos if you applied yourself to doing that and you wanted to. You could do that by selling books. You could do that by steering people towards some third-party website that you make profit off of. You know, I mean, I'm just going to go ahead and address the elephant in the room. We're obviously talking about TJ, the Amazing Atheist here. But before, you know, before that guy made YouTube into his career, the way he made money and supported himself was through porn blogs. He would basically create these websites, take free porn from other sites, and link it from his site, and just stick some kind of third-party ad on there so that every time his site gets a view, he gets some money. And, you know, this way he never has to get a job because he wouldn't be qualified to do anything beyond work at McDonald's. He didn't finish high school. So, you know, the people that are making money off YouTube, and I don't say this without a sense of irony since I'm talking to you, Brett, but you really can't trust the people that are making any money at all off YouTube to be telling you the truth. If somebody is making a single penny off of their videos, then their credibility might as well be destroyed, because you have to assume that there's going to be a profit motivation in that. You have to assume that. I mean, once money enters into the picture, I mean, this is why the mainstream media does nothing but lie, because they're selling ad revenue too. They're selling commercial airtime. So if they can increase their if they can increase their ratings through sensationalism and lies, and push up how much ad time they can sell, then they're going to do it. That motivation is there, and that's what the net effect is going to be.
Do you think that it's possible for someone to make a little or a lot of profit and still be able to remain somewhat pure?
No, I do not.
Oof, goodness gracious. Well,
I'm sorry, Brett. I mean, I hate to say that. I'm just telling the truth. The other a couple days before I closed my channel, I had somebody ask me a question in a comment. They said, how do you feel about the fact that your audience has declined steadily over the years, and that TJ's blown up and he's on CNN now? And I said, well, CNN is exactly where a guy like TJ belongs, because if you're just going to tell an audience of people what they want to hear, so that you can make money, and you're going to be disingenuous and just kind of pander to the audience for profit, then you belong in the mainstream media. That is the place for you. But and like I said, I feel bad saying these things to you, Brett, because I know that you do have a Patreon account and stuff like that. I don't have anything against you at all. I'm sure that you do tell the truth in your videos more often than not. However, the temptation for you to lie, the temptation for you to say what you think people want to hear in order to push up your views and therefore get more donations and more ad revenue, that temptation is there, and you might be resisting that temptation, but it is there.
Yeah, I can understand the resisting temptation thing. I think if someone like me actually wanted to make real big money on the internet, though, I'd have to be an atheist, because it's the atheists that have taken over YouTube. You hear what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, it's so trendy. It's so trendy to be an atheist these days. It's the whole alt-right thing is trendy. It's super trendy to hate feminism. It's I mean, what kills me the most is the irony of this whole thing of like calling social justice warriors and people special snowflakes and fedoras, and you're trying to be you're trying to fit in or whatever. Now you guys are the ones trying to fit in. Yeah, it's super trendy to be an atheist right now. It really is, and like all these millennial kids. I mean, what is the rate of religious participation these days among millennials? It's got to be like 5% or less. And not to get too biblical, but Jesus did tell us that this was going to happen. He said that that toward the end times, and of course everybody always predicts the end times, but he said that toward the end times, because corruption would abound, the hearts of many will wax cold. Mm-hmm. And I think we see that happening. I think we definitely see corruption abounding, and we see the hearts of many people waxing cold. People don't care about one another anymore. They don't care about anything except their selfish motivations, and that's where we're going as a society, and it needs to stop. It has to turn around.
I have to ask the question. I know that you have made it quite clear that you have no interest in doing YouTube anymore. Have you ever thought about VidMe or Daily Motion?
VidMe I've never even heard of. Daily Motion, okay, here's the thing about other video aggregator sites. Mm-hmm. Like, granted, I wouldn't have to deal with as much of Google's bullshit, and Google is one of my arch nemeses in life. I really hate that company. I've hated them since they started out. I miss the old days when we had a million search engines like Ask Jeeves and Hotbot and Metacrawler and all that stuff. When it became consolidated into one thing and you just had to go to Google to do your searches, I hated that. because I don't like the idea of this one group of people being the gatekeepers of knowledge on something as important as the internet, which really exists to democratize knowledge, in my view. But the way I look at it when it comes to other video aggregator websites like that is, why would I give up the Coca-Cola of YouTube and then start drinking the RC or Fago of Daily Motion? You know, in other words, I'm just getting a low rent version of the same thing, and I would probably have the same objections to that I do to YouTube. So I don't see much point in doing that.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough on that. Now, I've noticed from the beginning of watching you do YouTube videos, you seem to be really into the philosophical aspect of things. There's a lot of people that just made videos and ran their mouth, but I think that for me, I perceived it as one of the reasons why you even took an interest in Gary at all. Talking to him, because of he's got a philosophical type of nature. I mean, sometimes it's shit, sometimes he hits the nail on the head. Would you say that about yourself, that you're into philosophy big time?
I would, definitely. I majored in philosophy in college with a minor in English, and the reason I did that is because I had a guidance counselor in high school, and I asked the guidance counselor, what do you think I should major in when I get into school, into college, rather? And he gave me the advice, well, you should major in what interests you. Now, kids, if you're listening, that is the worst advice you could ever take. Do not major in what interests you, because what interests you is going to be some bullshit liberal art that there's no job for. Major in STEM, science, technology, engineering, math. Major in something that people need. Never become a philosophy major. Never become an English major or a women's studies major or any kind of bullshit like that. Don't major in literature. Don't major in music. Fuck all that. That's the reason we don't have a country anymore. That's the reason our economy is in the tank. But Brett, you really opened a can of worms by mentioning Gary, mentioning Mendham in this interview. I was waiting for you to do that. I knew the time was going to come, so let me say something that I've been wanting to say. Before I left and closed my channel, I hadn't seen the videos that he made about Stephanie, and I really want to set the record straight and say this right now. All that stuff that I said about Gary being my brother and how I love him and how I'll always pray for him, yeah, fuck that. I am never going to waste another prayer on that fucking son of a bitch. I'm absolutely just mind-boggled at how somebody can be so completely vile and devoid of any redeeming qualities. I would say that guy's soul belongs entirely to the devil, but I'm actually starting to think he might be the devil himself.
Oof.
And, as a Christian, I shouldn't say this, but I seriously hope that God cuts his wicked life down so he can't hurt anybody else. I hope fucking he gets some kind of mouth cancer where he can't talk and fucking hurt people anymore. Like last night when I saw those videos for the first time, my jaw dropped open. My first instinct was to hop in my truck and just drive straight to New Jersey and fucking kick his ass until they have to wire his jaw shut and he can't fucking talk anymore. And the only reason that I calmed down and didn't do that is because I thought about it for a minute and I realized, well, let's put this in perspective. Stephanie is going to have a long, happy life full of lots of positive, healthy relationships and people that care about her, especially now that she's going to have a healthy body. Whereas Gary, on the other hand, is not getting any younger. He's damn sure not looking any healthier as the days go by. And when death finds that man, it's going to find him alone and afraid, knowing that no human being truly loves or cares about him. And I think it's very likely that the last thought that goes through his diseased mind is going to be sheer mortal terror when he realizes too late that God does exist and where he's going to be spending all of eternity. And quite honestly, I think that's what deserves to happen to Gary. Fuck you, Gary.
It's rough, but I understand. Yeah, I talked to Mr. Freak earlier today, and he was extremely upset. And we basically discussed that he should not make any videos in response to the guy. Just leave that alone, because people, you know how people are on YouTube. Sometimes they treat things like a soap opera, and they forget that there's actual feelings and emotions involved. You know?
Yeah, I sent Jesus Freak a text that actually we had a phone conversation today. It was the first time I talked to him on the phone. And the reason I called him was to apologize, because there is a reason why I begged my audience not to flip Gary a bunch of shit about me leaving. I asked my audience not to give him trouble, not to go over to his channel and say, hey, asshole, thanks a lot for making FakeSagan leave, because I suspected that he would lash out at somebody, some innocent third party, because of people doing that, but I never could have imagined how far he would go. And thanks for fucking not listening to me like you never do, you fucking idiots. See, but I'm not going to blame other people for what Gary did. The fact is, Gary is a heartless fucking son of a bitch. And I hope you burn in hell, Gary, you fucking piece of shit.
Yeah, I got to see Tommy from the Bronx's video. He was extremely upset about it as well, and I had thought about making a video, but I can't bring myself to actually watch him say it. I can't go over to his video and watch that. It would make me sick. Yeah. So,
Bro, I'm not exaggerating, man. Like, tears were rolling down my face. My jaw was on the floor. I have never, I could smell the sulfur in the air. I was like, holy shit, this guy really is the devil himself. I've never heard something just so devoid of humanity, and it was clear that he was taking pleasure in every damn minute of it. Listen, Gary, you can say whatever the fuck you want about me. I'm a grown-ass man. You can even say some shit about Christine, even though she's somebody I love, because she's a big girl. You don't fucking talk that way about kids! What the fuck is wrong with you?
oof.
You fucking piece of shit! Sorry if that hurt your ear, Brett, but I had to get that out, man. I am so disgusted. I'm completely blown away. It's the lowest I've ever seen him sink. I didn't think, I tried so hard. I tried so hard to see the good in him. I tried to see the humanity in him, but I know now that I was lying to myself. There isn't any. There is no redeeming value in that guy whatsoever. There's no reason for him to be alive on this earth, because all he's going to do is fucking... And let me tell you something else, Gary. Let me tell you something else. I have got half a mind to start writing letters to my representatives and saying, cut this motherfucker off his welfare, because I don't want to pay for a piece of shit that's just going to spend all his time on the internet making people's lives suck, threatening fucking judges, and just basically making the world a shittier place. Why the fuck should my tax dollars pay for your ass, Gary?
Ooh, goodness gracious. All right, are you ready for my next question? Unless you have some more you want to say on that. I understand you getting out the rage and the aggravation.
I'm sorry, Brett. I apologize.
No, you
If
don't
I
have
yelled
to.
in your ear, and I'm just like, you don't understand. I mean, when I saw those videos, it was already too late for me to respond. I had already closed my channel down. I have never been so... There's nothing I've ever seen on the internet that shocked me more. And I've seen videos of Muslims cutting people's heads off. There is nothing I've ever seen that was just so fucking disgusting as the way he was talking, and not just the way he was talking to Stephanie, but the way he was talking to Tommy from the Bronx when he responded to his video, because Tommy is the best among us. Despite the fact that he's an atheist, he doesn't believe the same thing that I believe. I know he's a better person than I am. Tommy is literally the best one among us. And you disrespected him like he was a piece of shit. And you're the fucking piece of shit, Gary. But anyway, I'm sorry. I apologize once again. Let's move on.
All right, man. Well, if you feel at any time you have some more things you want to say, I mean, it's an interview to learn about you and see how things tick. Woo, that's rough. It's all good though. I got my volume turned down a little bit and everything. I'm able to control the volume, so it's cool. All right, you. One of the things that seemed very important to you whenever you returned to YouTube was you were you wanted to find some closure with certain people out there. And I think that you and we've worked out all of our issues. You talked with Freak. Was there any other people out there that you wanted closure with where you don't feel like you got your words in?
Boy, you know, the shitty thing about this is that I already know that later on after we hang up and the interview's over, I'm going to think of somebody and I'm going to be like, damn it, why didn't I think of that at the time? I
Should we get back to the question?
Maybe so, because nothing's really coming to mind. You know, there was a time when when I made that apology video that I made, I kind of felt bad about how things worked out between me and TJ. But, you know, since then, I've seen a few, I was telling the truth when I said I never saw the Drunken Peasants. But since then, I have seen the Drunken Peasants, and I saw the way they treated you, and now I kind of feel like I'm kind of comfortable with how things worked out between me and TJ. I think I don't think I really need any more closure. You know, besides that, trying to stretch my memory back, thinking if there's anybody else that I want to say something to make amends. And I'm sure I will think of it later, but it's not coming to me right now. Good question, though.
Can you do me a favor real quick, though?
Anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had no interest at all to even bring up TJ or DP in the interview. This was all supposed to be about you. Can you say to those who will be listening out there that I did not ask you or say anything to incite your position on TJ or DP, please? I know that sounds funny.
Yeah. I'll give you I'll write a little waiver for you to cover your ass with. All right, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, this is Chris Anderson, the Smooth Terrorist, FakeSagan, the Fluffy Kitten is talking. Brett and I did not discuss this interview before he called me. He called me on the phone, and we just, in a very impromptu way, were like, okay, let's do it. We didn't plan any of these questions out. We didn't script this. We didn't do anything ahead of time. This is all off the cuff. This is me. You know, Brett wants to ask me about me and not about TJ and the Drunken Peasants. But the fact is, TJ was part of my life for a very long time. And so were the rest of the Drunken Peasants. I mean, me and Paul's ego go way back too. And even Scott, I mean, hell, I lived with Scotty and TJ. So you really can't ask me about myself without those guys coming up. It's just something that's going to happen. But yeah, Brett had nothing to do with this. You know, if anybody's thinking that, you're mistaken.
Okay. Fair enough. I mean, I'll end up probably making more videos in the future running my mouth towards that group, but I planned on this just being about you. Just about you, the man.
All right, then.
It's all good. I mean, but if you feel that you want to, you know, drop bombs on anybody out there, it is your interview. You can do what you want to on it. You know, I enjoy hearing you.
The only one I want to drop a fucking 10 megaton neutron bomb on is fucking Gary and Mendham, you fucking inhuman piece of shit. You squandered any goodwill I had towards you. You found the limit of my Christian forgiveness. I soul searched. I fucking turned the other cheek when you talk shit about me, talk shit about people I care about. I tried so hard to see the good in you. But when you fucking brought Stephanie into this, that was the last straw. You're fucking done. And I swear, if I ever see you in real life somehow, I don't know why I would, if I'm like in New Jersey to visit Jay and Silent Bob's secret stash in Red Bank or something like that, I don't know why I would go to a shithole like New Jersey. But if I ever find myself there and you just happen to be there, I'm going to grab you by your fucking scrawny neck and pull that clown wig of hair out of your fucking scalp and beat the fucking dog shit out of you.
That's rough. Well, ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you never become an enemy of this man. He's got a great deal of endurance and patience and tries his best to find the love and good in everybody. But as you can see, you piss this man off, he will drop the hammer. Am I right? Amen?
Amen, Brett. You know, I'm not proud of myself for getting angry like this. It's a part of myself that I'm trying to change. You know, I've mentioned before, you know, I am in therapy. I mean, I'm actually taking like anger management and stuff like that. I've got a history. I mean, you know, I've had some in real life assault charges filed against me that were justified. I've gotten into bar fights. You know, I've been a violent person. I've had a problem with my temper my whole life, and it's something I'm trying to work through. But I have my limits, just like you said before. And by the way, I got to apologize to you, Brett, because that video that you made about Inmendum, the one that you took down after I was saying all this stuff about he's a saint, etc. You were right. You had the right of it. You saw further than I did. You were a wiser man than I. You were fucking right, and I was wrong. He's an irredeemable, soulless piece of shit.
I myself, just to make this quick for you, I don't know if you knew this because you did take a pretty decent break, but I actually many times tried to go into his live rooms and talk with him and chat with him. And my wife used to sit back, her and we'd sit there and watch him and listen to him, and we actually felt very sorry. We felt very bad about the kind of life he was having to live. So my wife decided, even though she's not big into doing YouTube anymore, she made a video. And I even told her it may not be a good idea, but she did. And she said, Gary, is there any way that, you know, we can all sit down and just talk and everything, and maybe we can help? Or, you know, she just wanted to let him know that there's people out there that care. So he ended up putting a video up on his donotgod.com website, and he called her a whore, a bitch, a pig, a fat ass slob, and that's when I realized that no matter how fucking nice somebody is, because my wife, she's like an angel from heaven. If you feel like you got to get angry at somebody like that, there ain't no way a Brett Keane's going to get through. I mean, my wife, she makes my heart just light and float. And if she can't get through to a guy like that, then there's no redeemable quality. There's no way. And the fact that he's willing to piss on a kid like that, I mean, obviously there's no limitation, you know.
Well, Dawn certainly looks like an angel. But can I get a word in about sympathy for Gary and feeling sorry for Gary? Can I just say one thing about this, please?
Sure you can. We can run this as long as you like, man.
All right, here's what I want to say, and here's what it is. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this in public in any of my YouTube videos before, so this is some great exclusive interview content right here. But I'll go ahead and reveal this right now. I was abused as a kid. Not sexually, but physically. I used to get beat a lot as a kid. And that is part of the reason that I've been such an angry and violent person my whole life. And right now what I'm in the process of doing is trying to change. But listen, if anybody is feeling sorry for Gary and saying, oh, he must have been through some really horrendous shit to be the way he is, well, I want you to consider this. And I want you to listen real good. There are Holocaust survivors who are the kindest, gentlest, nicest people you could ever meet. There are people who were tortured in fucking Auschwitz that made it out, and they turned out to be great people. If you are as shitty as Gary, if you are as cruel and fucking evil as that man is, that is a choice. That is a choice to remain that way. I don't care what the fuck he's been through. I mean, what scenario could you possibly imagine? What scenario could you dream up that would justify his level of fucking cruelty? There is nothing. You have to choose to be that much of a piece of shit. So don't anybody feel sorry for this guy. He's exactly where he belongs in life. He's exactly where he should be in life. And he's going to get the death that he deserves, and hopefully sooner than later.
You know, I myself, Chris, I did a documentary talking about my life and my existence, and I've been through living hell growing up, and I suspected that you probably had you some hard times. I don't think someone can be as wise as yourself unless they've had some major experiences, both good and bad. And I also agree. I think it's a weak ass person that lets this world turn them into to shit like that, to the point where they'd be willing to attack a child that's never done anything to them. It's just the way it is. That's how I feel about it.
And attack Tommy from the Bronx. I mean, this isn't all about Stephanie. Now, granted, I'm mostly pissed off about what he said to Stephanie, but I was fucking disgusted by what he said to Tommy from the Bronx. You don't disrespect Tommy from the Bronx. There's just some things you don't do.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a list of YouTube commandments, and first among them is thou shalt not fucking disrespect Tommy from the Bronx. You don't do it. And fuck Gary. I mean, I swear, like, I just want to reiterate this point. What could have possibly happened to this guy? Let's say that he had kids and we didn't know about it, and they were tortured and murdered in front of him. There are people who have been through that in real life. There's people that has happened to, and they still manage to be good people. There is no excuse for behaving the way this guy does, especially someone as intelligent as he is. He's made a choice to be entirely evil, and he is going to reap the rewards of that choice. It is going to happen. I mean, but I'm not going to fucking go to New Jersey and kick his ass. Vengeance isn't mine. Vengeance belongs to God, and he will use it. So look forward to that, Gary. You're going to get what's coming to you. Believe me.
Mm. Well, let me see. I got some more questions for you. Are you ready? How do you feel about?
I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm working on calming down here. I'm working on calming down.
All right. Well, let's try a more a relaxed type of question, but it's still kind of personal. How do you feel about marriage and having children for yourself?
Oh, personal questions. Okay. Oh, okay. How do I feel? Well, first of all, let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
Am I to answer how I feel as myself or as a Christian? Because that's kind of two different things.
Personally, I'd like to hear both.
All right. Obviously, as a Christian, I consider marriage as a sacrament. It's a great thing. It's what it's not what we're all called to do. Not everybody's called to be married. But many of us are, and it's a sacrament. It's a gift from God. Now, how do I feel about it personally? Well, I come from a single parent household. Like 99% of the atheists on YouTube, I have daddy issues. I know that you yourself had a dad that left. PJ had a dad that left. Boy, are you starting to see a pattern here?
Mm-hmm.
That really does have a lot to do with it. Let's be real. Let's be honest. And I think part of coming from a broken home kind of situation like that is that you always see the grass greener on the other side of the fence. And you kind of always covet what the quote-unquote normal kids have. And then marriage becomes this ideal for you. You get this Walt Disney idea in your head like this. If I just had this, I would be happy. I really, I'm divided about the issue of marriage. Gary, I'm sorry, I just called you Gary. Holy shit, I'm still thinking about him. Brett, I don't know if it's. I still think it's a great thing. I don't know if it's what's right for me. And then we have to, it even goes a level deeper, because then we have to get into this question of what does marriage mean in 2016 in the United States of America. I mean, obviously, you stand a better chance of maintaining a marriage and having it last anywhere in Europe, and pretty much anywhere else in the world besides this gaudy casino that we call the U.S., where everything is about consumerism and me. I think a marriage is kind of doomed before it begins here, and I do think that the men's rights activists have a very strong argument when they say things like, well, why don't I just give up my house and half of what I own and just do that in the first place and save the step of getting married? one of the consequences of women's lib, whether you think of it as a good thing or a bad thing, and there's always going to be divided opinion on that, is that if a woman can take care of herself and provide for herself as well as a man, what does she need a man for? It's cynical to look at it this way, but necessity holds families together. One of the things that keeps a family together is the fact that they need one another. You know, if we've all got our own shit, if we've all got our own fat bank account, you know, then we become isolated people. You know, we just go our own way, and I think we see everybody going their own way. And not just in terms of men and women and in marriages, but we're seeing this across the board. This is just a complete loss of social cohesion, and it's rapidly increasing. And I think it's a catastrophe in the process of happening. I think this is a disaster. I mean, I'm reminded of what Jean-Baptiste Aristide said about the United States. He said, the U.S. is an underdeveloped country, underdeveloped in terms of humanity, and that's only getting worse. I mean, we might have a prosperous lifestyle here. We might have the best when it comes to technology and comfort, but we are losing our humanity more and more by the day. We're just becoming. I don't know. Okay, I'm out of steam. I guess I busted my nut there. So go ahead. Next question.
All right. If there was anything, 3 major things that you could change in your past, would you do it, and what would they be?
3 things that I myself have done, or can they be things that just happened to me and that they're beyond my control?
Yes, it could be either way.
Okay. I still have to think about it. Just wanted to define there. Okay. I wish that. Oh no, that sounds self-piteous. Nah, I'm not going to waste my 3 genie wishes on that one. Let me think here. Oh boy. Boy, that is a tough ass question. I'm going to pass because all you're going to get is dead air. That's you know, it's not a bad question. It's a great question. The problem is it's too good. I mean, you got me. You stumped me there, Brett, because there's just so many things that I wish I could change. I don't know how I could ever confine myself to 3.
Well, how about I don't limit you to 3?
All right. Well, I definitely wish my dad would have stuck around. I wish I didn't get beat a lot as a kid. I wish I didn't spend a year in a mental hospital when I was 8 years old. I wish I had never hurt anybody else. I wish I'd never gotten myself sent to jail. I wish I had. I wish I'd finished school and paid attention and actually finished a full degree, even though it's not worth the paper it's printed on, instead of just, you know, smoking lots of pot and chasing girls around campus trying to get laid. I wish I hadn't wasted so many years of my life as an atheist. I wish that I hadn't, you know, been like a selfish womanizer for so long, kind of using people as tools to gratify myself with complete disregard for their emotional well-being. I wish that, boy, what else? Man, you know, Brett, I could do this all day. I mean, this could take up the whole interview. I'm a man with a lot of regrets.
If you want to continue, as far as I'm concerned, I find you very interesting and captivating person. You can say and do whatever you like during the interview.
Quite honestly, Brett, I don't want to continue down this line of
Okay.
questioning. I mean, I could go all day saying things about my life that I wish were different. But I don't think that's really healthy. I don't think it's a good way to think. I mean, for better or worse, my life and experiences are what they are. They've shaped me into who I am, and I couldn't change them if I wanted to. So uh, I just don't think this is, really something I should be thinking about.
What are you wanting to do with your future? How's that one?
You know, me and the future have a strange relationship because I'm pretty good at predicting other people's future. Um, but I kind of have this Cassandra curse where, like, I feel like I can see what's coming and I have no power to change it, and nobody listens to me. And of course, like if that reference gets missed, it's Cassandra was a princess of Troy who knew that Troy was going to get destroyed by the Greeks. Um, I um I can see the directions that society is heading in. I think I'm pretty good at predicting what's going to happen to other individual people. When it comes to my own future, for me, the future doesn't even exist. Which isn't to say that I don't think I'm going to have one. Of course, I am. Um, Time is going to move on, and things are going to happen to me. But I can't see it at all. I'm blind to it. I exist entirely in the present. The past isn't very real to me, and the future isn't very real to me either. I'm just the kind of person that lives in the now. So as far as now, I know what I'm gonna try to do. I'm going to try to continue to learn and mature and grow and become a better person if I can. I'm going to try to do the most good I can with the life that I've been given. But will I succeed in that? I have no idea. I don't know what the future's got in store for Chris Anderson. I guess we'll find out.
All right. That's fair enough. If you were talking about how you majored in philosophy a while back, and you had told people, my advice is never go for these type of things. If you could go back and do something different in schooling, what would have you went for? Now that you know
Oh,
what you know now.
engineering, baby, engineering, pure engineering. That is, if I had the money to go back to school right now, I would be pursuing an engineering degree because I've taken the ASVAB test when I was trying to enlist into the Air Force, and that's a long story. I ended up being kept out because of a pre-existing injury. I had a knee problem that required surgery, which I did eventually get, and I'm now 100% in physically good health, but I'm too old to have that as a career. But when I took that test, and when I've taken other standardized aptitude tests such as the SAT, the ACT, and all that, what they always show is that I have abnormally high spatial recognition, pattern recognition. I'm really good at looking at parts and understanding how they work and interact with each other. It's a gift. It's one of the gifts that God has given me, and I think I would probably be a very good engineer.
All right, I'm going to ask you some religious questions. Are you ready? Because there's going to be people out there that want to know. Do you believe...
Well,
Go ahead.
oh, sorry. Well, you asked if I'm ready. I'm as ready as I can be, but just keep in mind that anything you ask me about religion, you are asking a neophyte. You're asking a student of Christianity who really doesn't know jack shit. I'm still learning. I'm going to religious education classes as we speak. So I'm not going to give the best answers, and people need to be aware of that. But go ahead. I'm ready now.
I'm not gonna dig into some like crazy in-depth stuff, but just to give it an idea of what you believe. Do you believe that demons and angels actually exist? And of course, some would say they're both the same thing, just one is fallen. Do you believe in that?
Yeah, I do. I absolutely believe that angels and demons exist. Now, but let me qualify that a little bit. I do believe that God created the angels separately from us, like he created human beings, and he also created these beings called angels, and he has used them as messengers. In fact, that's what the word angel literally translated from the Greek. It means messenger. That's what they are. They tell us. It's like they'll be sent to tell somebody what their mission is, what they're going to do. Not that I've ever been sent an angel, and I don't think I've ever interacted with a demon either. Which, of course, demons are the angels that took the devil's side. They chose his side over God. Now, when it comes to how this applies to our daily lives, even though angels and demons exist for me as a literal thing, when I speak about angels and demons, I'm usually speaking about them in a metaphorical sense. If I exercise my demons, will my angels leave me too? One of my favorite quotes. I think that, or like how Abraham Lincoln talked about the better angels of our nature. So when I use these terms, I'm usually not talking about a literal demon or a literal angel, although I do believe that literal angels and demons exist. Yes.
All right. Stephen Hawking, atheist physicist, he is convinced that there could be very high probability that there are advanced alien forces out in the universe, and his concern is one day they will notice us, become aware of us, and enslave us or destroy. How do you feel about aliens in the universe? Do they exist? Is there a high probability, or is it just bullshit?
Well, first of all, are you sure that Stephen Hawking is an atheist? Because that's news to me.
Stephen Hawking's has they did an interview with him, and he actually asserted very, very strongly that there is no God. He didn't make a, hold on a second, somebody's trying to, there we go. Hold on, I don't know why somebody's trying to call in. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
he asserted that there is no God. These are his words. He didn't say I lack a belief in deities or that there's, I don't see any evidence. He just straight out came out with there is no God. So, I mean, he's a pretty, I suppose I would label him a hardcore non-believer.
Wow, then I've learned something during this interview as well. I kind of assumed that as a man of science, he would be an agnostic like most of them are, because since God is not a testable, falsifiable claim, to claim knowledge of it, you've either got to have faith,
Hmm.
like many men of science are men of faith as well. But when somebody goes the opposite way and says, "Oh, I'm just damn sure God doesn't exist," that always kind of surprises me to hear that from an atheist. I mean, you kind of have to have a kooky screw loose like Dawkins to say some things like that. Now let's get into the topic of aliens. You know, scientists and non-scientists alike have theorized quite a bit about what extraterrestrial life elsewhere in the universe might be like. And by the way, I definitely am in the camp that believes that it's vastly more likely that alien life does exist than that it doesn't exist, although we don't know that for sure. And I think we should be hedging our bets. I think we should be seeding panspermia deliberately to try to make sure that, if anything happens to this planet, life continues. In other words, I'm the anti-amendum in every way. I want to ensure the survival of the DNA molecule. I think it would be a great idea to send unmanned probes full of microbes and water bears and stuff like that, and just send them to other, to use Star Trek terms, M-class planets, habitable planets, like Kepler, for example. But life might be exclusive to this planet, and by doing that, by ensuring that we spread it somewhere else, and obviously over millions of years it'll evolve into more complex forms. Well, think about how that affects our statistical chances. If life existed only on planet Earth, then if this planet were to be destroyed somehow, there's a 100% chance that life is wiped out. If we even see life on one other celestial body, then that decreases the chances of all life in the universe being destroyed by a full 50%. That's a huge, huge difference. And of course, if we were to see it on more than one celestial body, more than one planet, then the statistic is skewed even more in our favor. Now, as far as what aliens might be like and what they might do if they were to suddenly notice and discover us, I'm not as afraid about that as Stephen Hawking is, and here's the reason why. Nature follows patterns. Nature likes to reuse patterns. It likes to reuse shapes like spheres. We haven't found a square-shaped planet yet. We haven't found a cube planet. I don't think we're going to. Galaxies tend to be in the shape of a spiral swirl. It just reuses patterns all over and over again. And even if you look at life here on Earth, the same patterns and morphology get reused over and over again. Like, for example, I have a head and 4 limbs, and a frog has a head and 4 limbs. Now, it's for this reason that when I hear people theorize about alien life being vastly different than it is here, like, oh, do they have tentacles? Do they have 10 eyes? Do they have green skin? I actually think it's kind of silly. I think that if life, and particularly intelligent life, exists elsewhere in the observable universe, it's probably going to be remarkably similar to what life is here on Earth. So I think if a alien species were to discover life here on Earth, and even if they were much more advanced, people have this idea that, well, wouldn't a vastly superior intelligence look at us as nothing more than ants? Wouldn't they look at us as something that like, oh, this planet that's inhabitable is infested with these talking monkeys. Let's wipe them out so we can have the resources for ourselves. Well, I don't see them doing that, because what would we as human beings do if we found a less advanced creature on another planet? Like, let's say we found a planet and it's got nothing but krill on it, or plankton. Would we therefore undertake this task of wiping all those plankton out? And no, we would cherish them. We would absolutely cherish them. We would be like, this is amazing. They might be a simpler form of life, but this is great. Let's preserve this. And I think if an advanced form of intelligence discovered life on Earth, they would be thrilled. They would be like, great, we're not alone in the universe. Look at these fascinating talking monkeys. Now, granted, they might put us in a zoo or something like that, but I don't think they would. I don't think they would want to genocide us. And if that's what Stephen Hawking thinks, then as arrogant as that may sound, I guess I've lost a little bit of respect for Stephen Hawking's intelligence. I thought he was smarter than that.
Yeah, that's what he said during an interview. I actually got the clip up on my channel. Surprisingly, though, guys like Bill Hicks and George Carlin, I have recordings of them stating that they are not non-believers, and that they only did religious jokes and everything because they feel like everything's on the table when you're being funny.
Well, that doesn't surprise me when it comes to Bill Hicks. He actually talked. He actually talked about God quite a bit. And he would often use biblical language and the terms of religion in his stand-up material. But when it comes to George Carlin, that does surprise me quite a bit, because I thought that guy was like a hardcore Bill Maher sort of atheist. So that's interesting to me.
The recording I got of him, where you actually have him on video during the Larry King show. Larry King is interviewing him and asking him, are you an atheist? And he said, no, atheism's just another religion. It's just another belief system. I do believe that there's something out there. I believe that there's some kind of higher power. I'm just not sure the religions got it correct. So he believed that there was something powerful that may have been involved. He just didn't have a label for it.
Well, I have a lot of sympathy for people who believe in a higher power or believe in a God, but but they have objections to organized religion. I think there's perfectly good reasons to dislike organized religion. I myself, being an adherent of one, clearly don't feel the same way, but I don't really hold it against people that do feel that way.
Mm-hmm. Do you believe that some organized religion can hurt someone's faith?
Hurt someone's faith? What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, there's clearly people out there that believe, and we both know that there are some churches out there that have actually robbed people. There's kids that have been hurt during churches. This is something that I am perfectly aware of, and I admit in my videos that there's problems like this. I can see that causing problems for people having doubts whenever they get hurt by someone that they, consider that they had trust in. You get what I'm saying?
I do. But when it comes to that, what you have to remember is that whatever organized religion we're talking about, so this can apply to any of them, mm-hmm. they're comprised of people. And that means that they're inherently going to be subject to the flaws of people. And to use Christianity as an example, every denomination that I'm aware of, and I know for a fact that this includes mine, Orthodoxy, they acknowledge very openly there is sin in the church. There is evil in the church. They don't deny this. They put it right front and center. And the reason why is because the church is comprised of people who exist in a fallen state, and we're sinners. We make mistakes. So if the crimes of religion are hurting people's faith, then I see that as short-sightedness and kind of a lack of real deep insight. And in other words, people aren't thinking it through enough if they allow the failures of religion to dissuade them from belief in a higher power, belief in God.
Right. So a lot of people who had strong faith, of course, in the Bible, and yet they suffered, they went through pain and all that, yet they still realized that there was a God. Some people throw out the whole baby with the bathwater. I get you. All right, some of my, I guess I'll ask you a few more questions, and would you be interested in the future to do maybe even more of a concept like this?
Anytime you want to interview me or have me on as a guest on your hangouts that you do, mm-hmm. I'd be more than willing to do that at any time. I don't care about people on YouTube saying, "Oh, he said he was going to leave. What a hypocrite." I never said that I would. I never said that I wouldn't do guest appearances on other people's shit. This is a loophole that I'm more than willing to take advantage of.
It's a little difficult to do this kind of thing, though, unless you manage to get your Skype, because you won't be able to hear the other people in the conversation like this. And you realize how distracting that could be, right?
I do, yeah. I haven't gotten around to trying to install Skype on my ancient computer yet. I'll probably get around to that at some point. Honestly, I haven't had time to do much lately.
All right. Okay, speaking of ancient, because you mentioned ancient computers, do you believe that we have actually interacted with ancient aliens of the past?
No, I do not. And I want to say a word about ancient alien theory. I find it to be racist.
Oof.
And that might sound really strange, but let me explain. If you watch History Channel and Ancient Aliens and stuff like that, you never really see them picking on Europeans stuff that much. Well, I could take that back. I mean, they do talk about Stonehenge. Fine, sure, whatever. But you always hear them talking about, like, the pyramids and the ziggurats in Mesoamerica and, how could these people possibly have built this stuff? How could they have had the intelligence to measure all these edges and do it like? So if you unpack what they're saying, and you really analyze it in a incisive kind of way, it seems to me what they're saying is, these brown-skinned people couldn't have possibly been smart enough to build this pyramid. there must have been Winnebagos full of crackers from outer space coming and showing them how to do it. There must have been some space whiteys that came down and said, "Hey, this is how you build shit, guys." It's almost like this idea of extraterrestrial colonialism or something. It seems really strange to me, and I think it's kind of ridiculous to assume that the ancients weren't capable of building incredible things and technological feats, because the human genome has not changed any in the past few thousand years. If somehow you were able to travel back in time, let's say to biblical times, you could breed with a woman from 2,000 years ago and successfully produce an offspring. There's no difference between them and you. They were every bit as intelligent then as we are now, and we're capable of all kinds of astonishing technological feats. So why would you assume that the ancients weren't capable of those things? It's just silly to me.
All right, my last question for you, man, is this. When you hear of heaven and hell, how would you define it? How would you describe what you know or at least believe about heaven or hell?
Okay. Well, like so many other things in Christianity, especially in my brand of it, orthodoxy, heaven and hell, there are some paradoxes involved. Paradox is essential to Christian thought, and a lot of people, a lot of critics and atheists will look at that as a weakness. They'll say, "Oh, the Bible's full of contradictions. Beat your swords and spears into plowshares. Beat your plowshares into spears and swords." Yes, there's contradictions like that, but paradox is a strength, not a weakness, because it allows for deeper philosophical insights. Now, when it comes to, let's use the example of hell. There's multiple ways of looking at it. You could look at hell as the absence of God. You could look at hell as separation from God. Or you could look at it the other way, which is that God's love is there, and yet it feels painful to you because you shut your eyes against his light. Instead of his love feeling like warmth, it feels like a consuming fire. Now, I don't know which one of these two conceptions is going to be correct, and the only way I would find out is if I die and go to hell. And now, as far as heaven, it's equally difficult for me to try to conceptualize what heaven would be like. What my faith tells me is that heaven is where the church triumphant lives. This is where the faithful serve and worship God and adore God forever, and that's what they do. And if you like serving God and you like worshiping God and glorifying God, then you don't have to just stop doing it when you die. You get to continue doing it for all eternity. Now, I'm sure to an atheist that sounds absolutely horrible. They're like, "Oh, I get to lick some dictator's boot for all of eternity." But to me, it actually sounds pretty wonderful. I would love to continue glorifying God for all eternity. So I guess that's my answer.
I do have one more final question, and I think that it'll make it to where you can go out in a bang with this interview. The last question is that you have discovered, as well as the human race, that the world is going to end within 15 minutes. You're behind a podium, and your microphone is connected to the entire world. What would your last words be to entire human life and existence before the planet is gone, out of existence?
6 words, Brett, and 6 only. Repent, for the end is nigh.
That's damn good, man. That's damn good. Well, God bless you, and thank you for doing this interview with me.
God bless you as well, Brett, and thank you for having me on. It's a privilege and an honor.
My name is Dawn Keane. Please check out our new channel, God TV Radio International Network. Also, check out our gaming channel, Games You Love. You can follow us on Google+, Twitter, and Facebook. Links are in the description. Please don't forget to subscribe, comment, and rate. Have a good day.